Good morning, Cindy here, and today we are going to talk about watering and all the tips and tricks that I can think of to help you guys water well and water efficiently. So it is towards the end of May. I cannot believe that May is almost finished and we are going to get into full-on summer. But here in Central Texas, we have already had several days in the hundreds and many days now in the high 90s. So water is a real big deal here. And I want to try to give you some ways to use your water efficiently and try not to have a big water bill and still have a beautiful lawn or gardens. So I've got a lot of tips and tricks, and I thought I would share some of those ideas with you today. Okay, let's get started. So first, let's talk about watering your grass. And that is something that you're going to have to do just a little bit of research on. I have zoysia grass, so it's fairly drought tolerant, and it does require regular watering, but it can go a long time in between waterings, and that's why we chose it. Bermuda grass, St. Augustine grass, you're going to look up in Google that and see how much water per week those grasses take. I know St. Augustine does require a little bit more water. But anyway, for our grass, it was recommended that you use an inch a week. An inch a week seems to work well for us. We've tried that. Now, it also depends on what kind of soil you have. We have heavy alkaline clay soil, and so it is hard for water to get through our grass, but somehow it manages. And we've done several things to help that along the way. We have aerated it with one of those a thing you roll along, and it puts a lot of holes in the ground, and that helps the water percolate down. We have added fine layers of different kinds of sands and different layers of soil to try to build up our soil so that it's not just the hard packed caliche clay. And all of those things have helped the grass be able to absorb the water better. So continuing on though, we also were taught early on in our years of gardening about the tuna can method, or any low profile can or plastic container. So what you do is you put your can out in an area where you want to know how much water am I actually gathering there. Put it out there, turn your sprinkler on, and wait and see how long it takes for this to get 1 inch of water. It's important that you time this because everyone has different water pressure and different sprinklers put out water at different rates. So you need to measure for your specific system and just turn it on and measure that. So when you've got 1 inch of water in this can, then you know so maybe that took 30 minutes. So there you go, there's your time. Now what we were also taught early on years ago was to water twice, because what happened, and we kept noticing when we'd water that full amount of time it took to get the inch of water, we were losing it it was running down the street, running down the sidewalk, and it wasn't staying put. That's because our soil is so compact that it can't take in 1 inch of water all at one time. So we cut that in several sections. We started watering at 4 o'clock in the morning. We do this with timers. We have an automatic system. We set it at 4 o'clock in the morning on our water day. Now that's another important thing. Make sure you know when your water day is. 4 o'clock, we set it for, I think he waters for 30 minutes. And then it goes on to water a different zone for 30 minutes, and then another zone for 30 minutes. And then at 6 o'clock, it comes back to that first zone, and it gives it another 30 minutes of water. And we found that the water was much easier absorbed into the grass that second 30 minutes. So that, I hope, is a tip that you might try. and see if that works for you. Then observe your grass, and if your grass is looking great, then you've probably got it right. If your grass is looking like it's dying, then maybe you need to add a little bit longer water. But most of us can only water once a week, and we have to make sure we're watering on our water day. So this is a way we get enough water on our 1 day a week. All right, let's talk about the garden beds. I think most everyone, if you've watched me very long, you know that I like drip irrigation in my areas where I have shrubs and perennial plants. I'm going to put a link here so you can go back and watch how we installed our drip irrigation systems in the backyard ourselves. And it was not that hard. And we order everything from dripdepot.com. And it has been a wonderful experience. And we have saved a ton of money that way. So you might ask, are you allowed to hand water more than once a week? And in my city, you are. You can hand water more often. You don't want it to be, going off into the sidewalks and streets, but you can hand water. I try to do my drip irrigation just once a week. It may not be on the day that I'm supposed to be watering because the grass is taking all of that time. But I do water only once a week in all of my big garden beds for my flowers. Now, new things that I have recently planted, I hand water those more often, probably every 2 to 3 days because they're brand new and they have no root system yet. And then the other thing that we do though is we heavily mulch everything. So when we are finished watering, I feel good that that water is staying put for a longer period of time because of the mulch. And I use cedar mulch. Let me show you here. While we're videoing, I'm going to show you my bee balm. Isn't that beautiful? This is also called Monarda, and I just can't get over how gorgeous it is. And I think these flowers are going to be lasting quite a while. We'll see. All right, but I wanted to show you that I put a really thick layer of this shredded cedar down. I really like cedar because it smells great. It keeps the pests away, kind of like in a cedar closet, and it really holds in that moisture. And it lasts for several years. But how do I know if these plants are getting enough water? Well, first of all, just observing. That is a really good garden tip, is look at your plants. Now, my plants seem to be just as happy as can be. They are not browning or flopping over. If your plants begin to brown down low, that is a sign that you're not giving them enough water. Another little tip is this guy. This is a moisture meter. You can get these on Amazon, and I will link below. And it's kind of like a meat thermometer, and you are going to stick this in the ground, and the little arrow will let you know. You need to try to stay in that green area. And I find that almost every time I use this, we are dry because we are in Central Texas and it's so hot. So let me show you what I mean. So I've plunged it in, and it is telling me that it is leaning towards wet, towards the blue, which is great. And that's because I watered this last night, and I feel good about how much water it got. And I can do that on all of my plants. And this one is in the green. So I did a good job of watering last night. So I've learned a lot while working at the nursery. I've listened to people, they come in and they say, oh, my plants didn't make it, they've died, they didn't come back. And I said, well, what kind of plants? Well, they're the native perennial plants and they didn't come back. And after I listen to them for a while, we find out that it's a water problem. It's not the plant's problem, it's a water problem. People are learning that they do need to water more than they thought. So it's important that you really check to see if your plants are getting enough water. And this is a great little way to do that. Now be careful because these things can break easily. We have learned that at the nursery. This is where I first learned about that. We do use this at the nursery. But don't, if it's giving you some resistance, choose a different spot because these can break. But I just love this thing. It's really helped me understand how much water my plants are needing. Sometimes I notice that, oh my gosh, something seems to have gone wrong in the garden. Things are not watering well, and it's telling me that something's gone wrong with my drip irrigation. You can't assume that your drip irrigation is working well. You have to keep checking, observing your plants. And several times we've had to go in and kind of lift the drip up, and we find that some mice have chewed through it, or for whatever reason things have come apart, and we just make a quick fix. But in the meantime, sometimes I resort to these wonderful sprinklers. These are the kind that just oscillates back and forth, and I love these things. They do a great job. And again, I might set that tuna can out to make sure that I'm getting at least ½ an inch of water, so I can understand how long I need to water to make sure things are doing well. And then this is another great little sprinkler. This one, I can set it really low and kind of use it like a bubbler in an area where a plant might be in distress. And so I use this all the time. Even though I have drip irrigation, sometimes you just need more. And so these are great things to keep on hand. While we're here, look at the Greg's Mist. I don't know if you can see it, but it is fully blooming, and the butterflies have started showing up and enjoying sitting on top of these and enjoying the nectar. So another thing we can talk about are emitters. And I have started using emitters a lot more often. So what you do is you just buy this black plastic with no holes in it. And you can attach that to a faucet, and you don't have to have the timer on it. You can just attach it to a faucet. And you need to probably watch my DIY on how you set up your drip irrigation. But you do this black plastic with no holes in it. And then this comes with little clips that you can poke into the ground to keep these in place. And they come in various water emitters. So there's green, blue, and red. And each one puts out a different gallon amount. So I have the highest level on this one because these will be big trees someday. So, and you just set them here, clip them in, and you're ready to go. And this way you can observe the water coming out, and you don't have to wonder if your irrigation is working or not. So I really have enjoyed these. All right, let's go look at raised beds. So this is my zinnia bed, and I wanted you to see I have these tubes laying all along here, and I have them in about 6 inches apart, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 across this bed. And when I turn this on, I can see the water dripping out, and that's a good thing. I do need to come in here and mulch. This is not efficient right now because the water evaporates out of here so quickly. But I didn't mulch right away because I wanted to wait until these little babies got tall enough that I could put the mulch in. And now it is time to do that. They can handle a bunch of mulch right now. But having these kind of raised up and not buried is a really good idea because you can physically see the water dripping down. And for a bed like this, I water these every other day because this bed dries out so quickly. And it's probably also drying out because of the lack of mulch. So you have to decide how much water you will put in when it's a container like this, or a raised bed. So for containers, most of my containers I just hand water with the hose. I wish that I had little emitters for every single one of my pots, but I don't. Someday. But one of the things I wanted to show you was this plastic saucer underneath it. So this plastic saucer is a great thing for several reasons. One, it can hold the excess water and allow the plant to drink up all of this water, because what happens is oftentimes in this incredible heat we have here, the soil becomes hydrophobic, meaning it is so hard it cannot absorb the water that I'm putting on it. So when I water this, the water is just going down the sides and just pouring out onto the sidewalk. So what I do is I do a test to see if my soil is hydrophobic. And that means I just get a stick and I poke a hole into the soil here in this plant, and I can see, oh my gosh, you have not absorbed any of the water that I just gave you. So then I will poke several holes in it and water it again. And you might start seeing some bubbling happen. Also, if you keep this underneath the plant can absorb the water from below, and that's a good thing. Now, you do not want to let water be in this saucer for more than 30 minutes to an hour. But that never happens around here because my pots are always so thirsty that they wick this water up really quickly. But it's very important that you dump this water out within 30 minutes to an hour, because you also don't want to risk that the plant got too much water and the roots will rot. But this is a great tip to water from below and allow your plants to have another opportunity to soak up that water. And also poke holes in your soil. Those are great tips. So I'm showing you an example of a slow stream that I do for all of my newly planted trees and shrubs. I have this fairly low, and I have wells or little reservoirs kind of built up around the base of my trees and shrubs. And I lay this down right up against the trunk, and I watch, I observe. And then I set a timer for 30 minutes. Yes, 30 minutes. That's because it's a brand new tree, and it's been 98 to 100 all this time. And I do not want this root ball to dry out. And I can't tell if the root ball is drying out because it's so far down. So the nurserymen have told me that that's what you need to do. Twice a week for 30 minutes, you do the deep soak for new shrubs, at least for the first few months. And then you can back off a little bit, but not much. And then you watch it and you make sure that the water is not overflowing or going off into another area. If that's happening, you've got to build your berm up better, more soil around the sides. You could even put brick around it, whatever you need to do to make sure that that full 30 minutes, that water is going straight down into the hole. And that's hard for a lot of us to think. 30 minutes? That just seems like forever, but you have it on a really slow stream. Well, why do we have it on a slow stream? Because if you turn it up a little bit, the water immediately starts going off on all around it. So the point of this is this water needs to go straight down, and that's the only way, is to keep that water down low and long. And this plant has done well. I have shrubs all along here. They are year 4 now, and they are looking wonderful, but it's all about the slow, deep watering. And the other thing is, I put a ton of mulch around this guy too. So mulch is really important for your new trees and shrubs, a nice thick layer. Well, I hope I've given you some great tips on watering. Watering is one of the most important things you can do to keep your plants alive and happy. And it's something you've got to really observe. It's all about having a gardener's eye and observing. I do not feel like sticking my finger in the hole is the best tip because you don't know what's happening way down deep in the root ball. So I highly recommend that moisture meter. All right, thank you so much, and I hope that you'll come back and watch in the next video.